How then shall we live? This is another short 12-minute segment of an 8-part series of how we live that greatest life. And of course, we can't cover in 8 little 12-minute segments all the key foundational principles. So one of them has to do with finances. I call it the joy of financial power encounters. Now, people might say, power encounters with finances. I tell you, some of the most glorious moments in my spiritual life is when I gave a specific amount of money and God answered it in a way that it corresponded exactly to the amount, exactly at the right time. Now, every time the Lord blesses financially, it doesn't come in the exact amount and the exact time, but when it does, and it doesn't have to, but when it does, it's like, whoa, God, you know me. You're listening to me. You saw me do that, and you responded to me. And I call that a power encounter. Yeah. We think of power encounters of people, somebody getting healed or the Spirit touching someone. I call it when I have sown money and it comes back in the same number at the exact time. It does something to my spirit that makes me look up to heaven and go, unbelievable. Yeah. You saw me give that money. It's a remarkable reel. So I call it's so fun. But it's also a power encounter.
It's like receiving a word of knowledge in the middle of 1,000 people.
Yeah. In a conference when the prophetic guy calls you out. Yeah, how did you know my name? And we've seen that happen a few times over the years. Well, the Lord tells us that in Luke chapter 6, verse 38, he says, he gives this principle. He goes, give. We all know it. Luke 6:38. You've heard it in church services for years. I'm sure many of you. Give, and it will be given back to you. The Lord will make sure it's given back to you. Okay, that sounds good. In good measure, pressed down, shaken together, running over. And then Jesus says, to the measure you give it, that's the measure God will give it back to you. So he's challenging us, like the verse in Malachi, where he goes, Malachi 3, verse 10, he goes, test me and see if when you give money into my kingdom that I won't answer you. Mm-hmm. Test me. It's the only place in the Bible where we're allowed to test God, where we sow money into his kingdom. And the reason it's a test, because there's often a time delay. Yeah. 1001, 1002, it could be month 1, month 2, sometimes year 1, year 2. And test me, see if I am not watching, and see if I don't remember, and see if I won't act on your behalf. Yeah. So he says, test me in Malachi 3:10, and see if I won't open the stores of heaven. But he really calls us to test him. Many believers don't do that. They live so in the comfort zone in economics, so they never ever have that power encounter dimension where they gave outside of their comfort zone and the Lord answered them in a specific way, in a dramatic way.
Have you found that when you have a powerful encounter with the Lord is when you were given that sacrificial moment, when it was like, this money I really needed? Or is it like all the time?
No, it's not. No, when I gave under the Lord's direction, and it was risky. I didn't have it to give. Yeah. I mean, I had it, but if I gave it, then I'm going to be lacking something.
Yes.
It's not fun to do that. It's fun when I get the answer.
Yeah.
The joy is when the answer comes, but it comes sometimes late, sometimes, soon. I remember the first time I did this. I read these stories. I'm about 18 years old. I mean, this is like 45 years ago. I'm a youth leader in a youth group, and I'm reading these biographies of these men and women of God who believe God for money. And I thought, God, I want some stories. And the Lord kind of whispered, well, step out then. If you want some stories, I told you I'll respond to you. You give and I'll give back to you. And so I remember we were leading a lot of people to the Lord. I think it was about 1973, something like that. The Jesus movement was happening. We were leading, a lot of people were being led to the Lord. I was leading a lot of junior high kids to the Lord. I'm 17, 18 years old about then. And so I want to buy Bibles, these little paperback Bibles and give them free. So I decided I'm going to buy Bibles and I'm going to give them away free to everybody. And, they're all 14, 13, 12. That was like, cool. And so I went and ordered 500 paperback Bibles. It cost $301.24. And that number is important, $301.24. Now, when I was 18 years old, I was like working in a youth group, I made $30 a week. I wasn't in it for the money, but I worked hard. I got $30 a week is all I got. So $300. I mean, again, it's almost 50 years ago, but $300 when I only had $30 of income, that was huge. I mean, it sounds silly now, but oh my gosh, so I committed. So, and I told everybody, the Bibles are coming on this day. Well, the Saturday comes, it's a couple weeks later, and the day comes. I don't have any money, but I read these books, these biographies, and they never told anybody their need. So, and I don't think you have to keep to that. I don't think it's wrong to share your needs to friends and partners and stuff, but I'm not going to tell nobody. So the day comes, and the book company calls me on the phone and says, hey, your 500 Bibles are in. Could you pick them up today at noon? And it's 9 o'clock in the morning. I don't have $1. I don't even have the $30 I made that week. I already spent it. My first time out, it bombs on me. I go, how embarrassing. How embarrassing. And somebody comes by my house and gives me a check. This has never happened before. Hands me a check. I owe $301.24 by noon. It's 10 in the morning. I have 2 hours. I don't have a thought of getting the money. Out of nowhere, someone comes to my house, hands me a check. Nobody knows the amount. Nobody knows I don't have the money. Everyone knows the Bibles are coming. They assume they're paid for. Total secret. And I'm nervous. I'm a little sad because I'm sure it's going to go bad. This guy hands me a check. I owe $301.24. The check, $301.25. I look at that check. And the guy goes, I know it's not much. I went, but it's 2 hours before it's due. It's not a month later or a month earlier. It's not even a day later or a day earlier. It's 2 hours before.
With an extra cent.
And I made 1 penny. But what's the chances of getting a check for $301.25 the hour you owe $301.24? I was so excited. I drove there and got that. I was so excited, not because I could get free Bibles. The God of heaven saw Pee-wee. Little Pee-wee he saw me. I go, do you actually care I went through that? Yes. Unbelievable. So now a few months go by. I'm all man of faith now. I mean, I'm 1 for 1. So now a few months later, we have a ski retreat we take every year. I take the junior high kids on, maybe 50, I don't know, 20 or 50 some. We did it every year. I can't remember how many this year. And we get in vans and drive there. And 2 13, 14-year-old girls, 2 junior high girls, they don't have any money. Their family has no money. I lead them to the Lord. They want to go on the ski trip so bad. So it was like December, and the money's due. And I go, I'll pay for it. Well, I make $30 a week. I don't have it's $250 a person. Back in that day, that was enough for the whole ski trip, actually, for food and everything, for the dinners and everything. But $500. God gave me the $301 in June. Now it's December. I went to $500. Man, I doubled it. I went way up. I mean, I laugh now, but I was scared. And so it's December 28th or whatever the day, it's a couple days after Christmas. It's Saturday, we're leaving. I have no money. The very day, same thing. Nobody knows I've committed to the 2 girls. Nobody knows I need $500. They are so excited. They're all packed. They're going to meet. We're going to leave at 7 o'clock that night or 8 o'clock that night in the vans and all drive to Colorado from Kansas City overnight and ski the next day, which is crazy. You don't want to drive all night, ever, with a van full of kids and the ski anyway, that's for another.
That's a different festival.
That's another day. No, drive during the day, sleep in the night, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, what was I thinking? But anyway, it's Saturday morning, no money. I'm panicked because I can't tell the girls no. But I can't take them and tell the company, the ski place, the lodge, no. I don't know what to do. I go to the mail just to get the mail for our family. It's Mike Bickle. Mike Bickle? I don't ever get mail. Open it up. God told me to give you $250. I'd never got a check in the mail ever. I had that 301. Someone knocked on my door and handed it, but I've never been given a check in the mail ever. Oh my God, I'm halfway there. It's only 10 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, I'm still a long way away. Because you make $30 a week, I'm still $250 out. We're packed. All the kids are in my front yard. I mean, my van, there's a couple vans. My van load was packed. They're all in the front yard. We're leaving. A family friend, a man, an older man, came by to see my mom and drove by. And he goes, what's going on in the front yard here? He goes, you got about 10 kids here. And I go, oh, we're going on a ski trip. And he goes, oh, really? He goes, that sounds like fun. And he says, you know what? I want to help you. He hands me $250.
It's amazing.
What, 15 minutes before we got in the van. I got $250 in the morning, $250, 15 minutes. Not just the exact amount, the exact day. When it's the exact amount and the exact day, it doesn't have to be, I'll take it a week earlier, gladly, a week earlier, trust me. And I'll take them more. I'll take 1,000 a week earlier. But when it's the same amount, the same day, I drove all night long. I said, God, who am I to you that you would do this?
Amazing.
Well, I have a series on MikeBickle.org where I talk about power encounters with finances. I think I tell 15 stories, I think. And most of them from my early life in my 20s where the dollars were hundreds, because when you're 18 and 22, that's a big amount. But in my 40s and 50s, it was hundreds of thousands and even more. I don't want to go into that, but the Lord answered them time and time again. I look back and I was listing the number of times, even as a ministry, at the critical moment we've received over $1 million or 700,000, some number like that. I haven't looked at the numbers, but I remember I told the story last summer. It was worth 15 times in the last several years, number of years.
Wow.
15 times, 700, 800, 2 million, 4 million, some number like that on the exact day or the month. Not always the exact day, but the month.
I have a question.
I want to keep on moving forward in this. I want to go on and on and on. I want to get to the tens of millions number.
Yeah.
Keep going.
So it's very evident that God was setting a precedent in your early life. My question is, as the zeros grow in the need or the response, is it more difficult to believe him, or is it easier to believe him because of the precedent in the beginning?
See, I want to say it this way. I'm going to answer it differently, then answer it right, and I'll be brief on both the answers. I met a lot of guys, they could tithe when they're in their 20s because they made 50 grand. They could give $5 grand a year. But when some of them became prosperous, now they make $5 million a year. They can't give 500,000. They can't.
Wow.
They got all their needs met, but they can't. The number's too big. They could tithe when the number was small. But when the number got big, even though they had way more stuff and it was paid for, they couldn't. So I've seen they can't stay with the number when God gave them more. And that's none of my business to figure out who does or doesn't do that. But let's go the other way. I'm being honest. This sounds a little bit heroic. It was harder when I was younger because I didn't have a story behind me.
Yeah.
When I've got 20 stories, when it came through with precision, the added zeros isn't as hard because I got stories.
Yeah.
To believe for the bigger numbers with no stories, but I've got proof. I mean, more than 20 times. I mean, actually a bit more than 20. I don't want to go into that. Because I push this number, I push it.
Yeah.
I get to a place, I push it anyway, because I love this.
Yeah.
And because of the stories, I'm positive he knows me. And so I go, if you know me, there's no problem. So it's actually a bit easier now, to be totally honest.
So this is a good application for a practical way of cultivate oil for the end times.
In your heart, the tenderness in your heart.
It's stories with God, either for financial provision or relief in your body or your soul. It's that kind of stories.
Yeah, build your history in God in intimacy. That's the oil. Build your history in God in power encounters with finances. I don't say I have the best history, but I got a real history in God in money. And I know some others that got some great stories, and that history is so valuable because now that our ministry is larger and the numbers are blah, 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 whatever, I'm not near so nervous because he's told me, he goes, I've gone out of my way, Mike, time and time again. I know you. We've settled that, haven't we? And because of that, but it was harder with $301. Yeah. I was terrified. And that $500 for that ski trip, and I got 10 more of those in my early days. So it's much easier now.
It's great.
Bless you. How then shall we live? We develop a history in God in our financial life.